All right, this is maybe not going to seem super spectacular, but it took a fair amount of work to get it working. Um, One thing I'm trying to do is use the take recorder a lot, and right now the take recorder is a little clumsy, so I wanted to be able to start and stop recordings from within the game. So what I did is I bound the record button to the B button here. So if I push it, it begins the take recorder, and I can run around. And if I push B again, it stops. Now the take recorder resets every time because the idea is you might take multiple takes. So I'm gonna hit B again, record another take. Maybe I'll run off the edge this time, whee, and stop it. Unfortunately, my character doesn't reset, so they're just going to fall indefinitely. But I'm going to hit stop, and then if I hit the review button here, if you know how to use the take recorder, this sort of like it's like recording a performance in real life, but you're capturing the data and the position and the camera movements of what's in Unreal. So this is how I would replay it. I load up the previous take. This is the timeline that I was recording on. I hit play, and that's me. Good times. I can replay it. So what you might do with the take recorder is like you can attach these to like your motion trackers. So you could do a mocap, or you could record your camera movements and then play it back and render it out at high quality. There are a few complications with it, and it's like a little hard to get into. But one of which, actually, let me see if I can demo the problem. Stop. So unload the scene. One of the weird things is like when you load the scene and you start to play, there's just like a second character, almost like a ghost image of the character in the take. But then there's also like the character in your level. So like if I hit play, I'm playing as this character, but this other character, which I recorded, is in the background. And this can get a little weird. So I'm trying to come up with some tools to deal with that will make it more natural. And I just wanted everything to happen in the controller. So just one more time. I'm in here. I might want to like do a particular shot and record it. So I hit record on the controller, go. And then when I'm done, hit unrecord, the same button. And then I can, reload that shot and watch it. Now this could be used for rendering out at a higher quality. Anyway, to get this wired into the controller was, you'd think, oh, can I just open blueprints? Like, let's open the level blueprint right here. And be like, okay, let's check for, take recorder. And there is this like cast to take recorder. Okay. I don't know how we'll get a hold of it, but let's pretend we have a take recorder. What can we do with it? Can we, start recording? Could we record? Could we begin? That, like, it didn't appear to be anywhere. I couldn't find how to programmatically trigger the take recorder. And if it wasn't clear, it's a tab here which is available from the cinematics, and then you click take recorder, and then it's just right here. And what you would do if you don't know how to use it is you would go to your world outliner and drag in anything you want to record during that sequence, and then when you hit record here, you'll notice that it's kind of, if I hit record here, it's the same as when I hit it on the button. But then you're kind of like using tools outside the level and inside the level. I just wanted everything to be inside the level. So how did I get access to it? This is going to be a C++ coding tutorial. And as always, I'm going to try and start from scratch. So let me just delete this level and open up open up the Epic Games launcher, and I'm going to create a blank level. I'm going to use the latest 426.1. And let's just pick a blank game. It's going to be a C++ project. I don't think it matters. I think you can click blueprints. Actually, let's just start with blueprints because maybe you have a blueprints project already. And call this my take recorder demo. Everything else is just going to be the same. Create project. Close that. All right. So what we're going to do is, I guess we'll stick with this. Let me hit play, see what happens. I guess there's not much going on. I'm just going to add a character to the scene. And I believe if I let me just create a game mode. And then add, I want to add a third person to the game, so I think I need to go in here and add this content. This will have the third person character, and this is the character that will spawn now when I press start. There we go, and I can move around. Perfect. I'm just going to check that the controller works. Yep. Alrighty. So the first thing we do need to do is create a C++ class, because there's no way to call take recorder. Actually, before we do that, we should probably go in and enable the take recorder plugin. Otherwise it won't work, obviously. All right, so that's in there. And if it's in there, you know, it will show up again under cinematics or wherever you happen to dock it. So I'm trying to program this button right here. So like if I add my third person character to the scene, and let me rotate them so they're looking at the chair, and I'm gonna say possess, and then let me go back to world settings and not spawn a character. So I'm gonna use the character that's in this scene already. Hit play. There I am. And what I can do is I can add them to the take recorder, so when I hit record, their motions and everything will be keyframed and saved into a sequence. But I can't hit this button. I want to hit this button from the controller. I don't want to use my mouse to go over here and click it. I don't even know if this is a keyboard shortcut, but that's not the point. So let's go spelunking. And the way I actually did this was, so I started by looking at the source that's just on GitHub if you join your GitHub to the project. And then I think if you go looking around, plugins, virtual production, takes, sources, take recorder, public. I looked in here. What I wanted to see is there code that's essentially this button? And after looking around a bit, I stumbled upon this header file. And there's this method right here. Start recording. Now, if you were to look at this path, you'll see that it's in take recorder public recorder take recorder panel. The public usually means that another person can link against this header. So you can write code that calls something in here. There's another folder, private. And generally the code in here is not for you to touch. So it's a good sign. It's in public. The other thing that we want to look at is this is a C++ class, and the method that we're looking at is also declared public. So in contrast, like we would not be able to call this method validate tab content because it's marked as private. So these are all good signs. What was a little weird though was that this was marked as blueprints callable. So I like couldn't figure out why I couldn't call this, but it didn't matter. It was I'm probably misunderstanding something, but I was still able to work around this by writing some C++. So that's what we're going to do. So if you go back to the project, it's not right-clicking to make a C++ class. You have to go here to new C++ class. This looks a lot like blueprints, right? Because it's sort of the same idea. This is what we want to parent class. So if we make a actor parent class, then I can drag it into the scene, which is sort of what I want. So I'm going to click actor parent class. And you can name this whatever you want. Let's call this my take recorder controller. Why not? Now this is going to add it to Unreal, and if you have Visual Studio installed, that's where you're going to edit it. It may or may not open it automatically. So Visual Studio comes with, well, it doesn't come with Windows, but you can download it from Windows. It comes from Microsoft, and it's for building C++ and other projects. But Unreal seems to integrate with Visual Studio quite well. So I don't really have to configure it. It opened it for me, took me here, and then I was sort of just ready to go. I didn't have to configure anything. So I wouldn't recommend editing this in another way. This code here is the class that I just created. This is my header file, and this is my implementation. And if I look over here, here is the code that was just generated for me. And if I click in here, I can also go looking at that take recorder code. So if I go to takes, sources, take recorder, public, and like here, for example, except I think it was take recorder panel that I actually found the start recording. Yeah, this is where I found it. I'm not sure why it's all red. It wasn't all red for me before, so hopefully this works. But this is just code to look at. We're just going to edit our own code. So if I go back here, there's a couple steps. One, I'm going to use the code, but for projects like this, there's a build step. All these files need to be assembled in a way that works and makes sense. And in Unreal, there are separate files that kind of govern this build process. And for mine, it's this CS, which is a C#. So I played around with this for a bit, and I wasn't 100% sure what to type. But when I looked in here, in this C# file, I figured that my C# file will probably know about this one at some point. And this one didn't really, I figured the name I needed was in here. So the only name that made sense was take recorder, the name of this class. So that's just what I did as a guess. And I added that here. So you can see this is public dependency module names. To me, that kind of means other things that I need to be able to import on my side. So usually when I make a change like this, I'll try like a very minimal build and see if anything goes wrong. So I'm going to click build solution, which should just mean, build my code. And, this is the name of the file that was generated for me, and it says build succeeded. So it doesn't look like this caused a problem. Like, let me misspell it and see if something goes wrong. Hey, look at that, failed. So this is a good sign. This is a good, we've taken a small step, and it appears to be a step that worked. So, question then. We are in there's a lot of files open. I'm gonna just open my files that I care about. So we're in my header file, and typically in my header file is where I will import whatever I just told the build system to go find. Now, if I type include, I gotta know, what do I say here? So what turns out is it's relative to this file, because this is the file where I said, include that. So if we look, it's inside the public folder. So what I'm going to try and do is start at recorder and then call take recorder panel.h. So I want to include this header. Now I purposely did it this way because if I hit build, it's going to complain at me, and it says this generated H file should always be the last included. So I just need to reorder these. And then I'm going to hit build again, and I'm just hitting Control Shift B or Control B. I hope those do the same thing. Build succeeded. Okay, so iterative, one step at a time, it started working. You might ask, why is this complaining? I'm guessing that the build system that is right here with the C# files, and the whatever Visual Studio thinks is going on are out of sync. So I looked around, and if I go here to VC++ directories, and I go to include directories, I can edit it. This is a little of a button clicking nightmare, but I'm just going to add the path of the file of that to the take recorder source. So program files, epic 462, engine, plugins. I'm just kind of speeding, virtual production, takes, sources, take recorder, public, and that's going to match with, see how I've got recorder there? So this should be the right one to add. I'm going to add that, hit OK, and let me just close these files and reopen them. Hopefully that gives Visual Studio a moment to kind of take it all in. The red line is gone. I'm going to call this a win. Another way to check this would be if I open this take recorder panel, let's use something in here and see if IntelliSense recognizes it. So I ultimately want to call this start recording, but this is a class, and so I can't call the class directly. The class is sort of like a factory that will make an object. The object is sitting in memory somewhere, and I at the moment don't have a reference to it. I don't know how to get it, so I can't really do anything with this until I get a hold of a reference to this class in the Unreal Engine. I realize this is probably impossible to follow without base level understanding of C++, but I'll sort of try to hit the middle of the road. So I went over to this class here, and what I noticed is getActiveRecorder. So getActiveRecorder is a static method, which means that I will be able to call it directly. I don't need a reference to anything that Unreal has created. I can actually call this directly. And then this is giving me a UTake recorder, which is the oh, I want this panel. Sorry. Yeah, I'm gonna call this, which is a static method, and get this panel. And this panel is the thing I want. So the way this would look over here is I need to call that code, but I need to call it from a function in my code. So I'm going to create a space for that function now. Let's just call it start recording. And let's make a stop recording. Now, these functions need like a body, and you put the body in the C++ file. So what I would do is this is inside here. Like if you notice the brackets, so this function is inside this one. So the way I would write that on this side is 2 colons, start recording, and then stop recording. And right now, these functions do nothing. Later, they are going to, actually, you know what? Let's just do something. So I'm going to call this static method, which I can do directly from this guy here. But I think I forgot to import, I think I only imported the panel, not the blueprint library, so let's also import that. And then let's go over to here. What was it called? Get recorder. Here it is, get take recorder panel. And then this is a pointer. So what I'm saying is call this static method, which returns a pointer to the active panel. Give me that pointer. Let's just hit build and see what happens. So success, meaning no problems so far. So let's now call panel and then start recording. And this is auto completing because I set that include path in the properties, in the Visual Studio properties. And you know, maybe we want to say if panel is not a null pointer, because this might come back null, which means it's not usable. And then let's just add this code over here as well. And then this will be stop recording. Build again, see what happens. Perfect. Now, if I were to just drag this, so if I go to here and I go to C++ classes, this is the code that I just made. And since it's an actor, I can drag it in to my scene right here. You don't see it because I don't have any components on it that are visible, but if I just put like a, oh, not a static mesh, let's add like a sphere there. Now there's this, now you can kind of see it just as a visual reference to it. So here's the sphere, but it really doesn't do anything. What I want this in the level for is I'm going to, I want to be able to bind this button here to call, like when I press this, I want it to call this method, you know, or this method. And I kind of want to set that up from a blueprint. And right now this can't do any of that. So what I actually need to do is go back to Visual Studio and then kind of add some annotations that will let me use this from the blueprint side. And if I go to like Unreal U function and I look up U function, you'll get to this documentation here, which will tell you how to annotate these so that they're callable from the blueprint side. And the way you would do it is you just call U function here. It's like a, I don't know the right word, like a decoration or a modifier. And then there's all these properties you can add to it. So we want to be able to call this from blueprints. So I'm going to say blueprint callable. This one is, this is probably enough. Now let's annotate both. You can go through and there's probably, more you can add to kind of make this nicer. But this is probably enough for us. And build succeeded. I think that's all the Visual Studio Code stuff we need to do, or Visual Studio stuff we need to do. So I'm going to go back to my content folder and I'm going to delete this. I don't want it in the level. What I'm going to do is create a blueprint now and inherit from my take recorder controller. So I'm going to call this my take recorder to controller blueprint. So just to go over what this is. This is some code I wrote that gets compiled and loaded into can be loaded into Unreal. This is a blueprint that inherits from it. So this is this, but it lets me interact with it in the way I'm familiar with blueprints. So I'm going to open this up. Hey, look, there's a scene root now instead of being nothing, event graph. But what I want you to notice is if I right click and say start recording, or what was it called? Start record? Let me go back. Oh, that's interesting. Why isn't it there? So it should have shown up. Which makes me think I might not have blueprint callable. Okay, so after much confusion and a lot of wasted time, I discovered you just have to restart Unreal. It did not see these U properties that I created. I'm actually going to get rid of this one. But indeed, after restarting, these functions that I've created are now available on the blueprint side. So let me also add stop recording. So what I would like to do is I want this controller input to trigger one of these. So what I should do is go here to project settings, go to input, and I'm going to add a button called record button. And gamepad face right. That's the B button on here. And close this. So if I go back, I should be able to go and get this record button input. Now I want it to toggle, so actually I want to determine if it's recording or not recording. So I'm going to go back in here and copy paste a is recording function that returns a Boolean. So if I go back in here, is recording, and that will return a Boolean. And I think this actually in and of itself has what I'm looking for. So I think I can just say is recording. I was hoping it would autocomplete. Can we peek at it? Nope. Here we go. DUC is recording. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So let me compile that. And hopefully this works. Is recording. Okay. Wow. So when I press the key, when I press the B button, I want to first check, am I recording? Then I'll branch from there with the value that it returns. And okay, if it is recording, I want to stop. And if it's not recording, I want to start. So let's compile that. And then the last piece is watch what happens if I hit play. So I move my character, I'm pressing B, nothing's happening. The reason is I just added an actor. This is an actor, it's not a pawn. The pawn is the piece that receives the player input. So what I really need to do is first tell Unreal that I want this actor to receive input. So I go enable input. And from player 1, get player controller, perfect. Or player 0, whatever. So now this will intercept the record button. And if I just hit it now, nothing's going to happen either, because take recorder needs something to record. So I'm going to add I'm going to add this character, hit play, and then hit record. 2, 1, and it's recording. Whoa, and stop. So let's review it and see if it worked. It indeed worked. If you're wondering about why there's this other character still here, that's a different issue. Next, I need to figure out how to spawn things when I want to record and not spawn them when I want to play back. But one more time. Perfect. And then let's do it one more time. Hit this button. Oh. Whee! And stop. I can play back. And there it is. Triggering take recorder from the controller in game. All right, thank you.